WHOG, The Hog, 630 News with Connor Chines Lorden, Sports and Weather. John Jack Patrick Rondeau, Field Reporter. Connor Conahalvin Sullivan, Field Reporter. Pat Patrick Carney, Anchor. Eddie Momo Moore. We are the Hog.
Welcome to WHOG, The Hog, providing Richmond, Virginia with all the top-of-the-line news stories. I'm Eddie Moore. I'm joined by my co-anchor, Patrick Carney, and Pat. How's the family been?
It's doing really well, but the wife's not really doing so hot.
Oh, man. All right, here are tonight's top stories. Abolition, the fight against slavery. It's all over the news. It's what everyone's talking about. Whether it's in the north with Garrison as liberator, or down south with the plantation owners fighting to keep their slaves. It's all everybody's talking about. But what you might not know is that it's become more than a battle of north and south. This thing is going nationwide. Connor Sullivan has more.
I'm out here in the north, and I am investigating the divide in the country between the north and south on the idea of abolition. Out here in Boston, we got people like Garrison, who publishes The Liberator, which is supported by freed blacks and other people in the north. And then down in Philadelphia, we got these conventions that are founding American anti-slavery societies. These societies are denouncing slavery and prejudices while also preaching ideas of nonviolence. Now, other support for abolition is coming from the North and other free states, and their whole idea here is to push Congress into passing laws that'll stop federal support for slavery. The abolition movements in the North, however, face fierce opposition from the South. Angry mobs rushed through cities, burning every piece of literature that had to do with abolition. The U.S. House of Representatives passed the gag rule, which would ban anti-slavery petitions. Elijah Lovejoy was just murdered by an angry mob. The angry mobs have gone too far, people. The South is way too violent. Northerners are being forced to vote for anti-slavery politicians. The North, however, is receiving reinforcements from, get this, women. Women such as Emma Willard and Susan B. Anthony are leading the way for abolitionist movement at the Seneca Falls Convention. They're leading the way for underground railroads to pop up throughout the North. These underground railroads are hiding slaves that are on the run. Southerners, however, are totally against this and are trying to keep their slaves as close as possible with fierce punishments for escaped slaves. Other Southerners, however, without slaves, are still supporting slavery. Why? Because they want a class below them. I mean, come on. Just because you want a class below them in society, you want slaves even if you don't own them? It's ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. This division's been around for a while. I mean, the North and South are almost two different countries in a way. You've got the North leading an industry and the South, which is predominantly farming. With these other things thrown in here, slaves versus non-slaves, violence, non-violence, we could be on the way to a civil war. Back to you.
Brilliant story. Thank you, Connor, for that report. And now I believe my colleague has a little something extra on abolition. We turn now to Pat Carney.
Thank you, Eddie, for that lovely report. Nowadays, most people probably heard the big names in abolition. People like Sojourner Truth, Nat Turner, and Frederick Douglass. Truth traveled the country preaching about abolition. Turner led a violent uprising for his beliefs in abolition. Douglass was a freed slave who fought for slaves' rights in politics. Now for two people you may not have heard of, here's Jack Rondeau.
Pat, these two siblings were very special. They were sisters. They were Sarah and Angelina Grimke. The Grimke sisters grew up in Charlestown, South Carolina. Sarah was the first to be born, and she grew up right on her father's plantation. The Grimke family was very elite and powerful in South Carolina. The family owned many slaves, and Sarah had many encounters with the slaves at a young age. One of her first encounters was after she taught one of her slaves to read and write. After her father saw this, she punished the slave severely and whipped her many times. Sarah was absolutely disgusted and she wanted to leave the plantation right away. Sarah had many similar experiences while growing up on her father's plantation. Sarah became even more angry when she realized that her religion did not have the same views as her on slavery. At one point, when she was visiting Philadelphia, she came across the Quaker community and decided to become a Quaker. She learned the abolitionist ways and she lived there for several years. After living in Philadelphia, she traveled back to South Carolina to visit her sister Angelina. Once back in Charleston, Sarah convinced her parents to let her become the godmother of the much younger sister Angelina. Angelina and Sarah grew very close, and Sarah decided to take Angelina back to Philadelphia to learn the Quakers' ways. Back in Philadelphia, Sarah and Angelina grew very close. They decided to become more involved in many abolitionist groups, and together they read papers like Garrison's Liberator, which talked about radical abolitionist views. One day, Angelina decided to write a letter to William Lloyd Garrison. Angelina's letter to Garrison consisted of her views on abolitionism and mob violence. After reading the letter, Garrison decided to publish it and put it in his newspaper, The Liberator. After people read this, the Grimke sisters had national fame. Many famous abolitionists respected the Grimke sisters, and they were now able to attend many national conventions about abolitionism. The Grimke sisters were now respected by many Americans. They traveled throughout the Northeast preaching to people about abolitionism. They were the first women to speak in front of a crowd of both men and women. They even spoke in front of a Massachusetts state legislator. They were the first women to do so. The Grimke sisters, people throughout the Northeast and all of America were able to see abolitionism through the eyes of a woman. This helped abolitionism as a whole because not only men, but women were able to see the horrific injustices of slavery. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Jack, for that wonderful story on those extraordinary sisters.
And now we have Connor Chines Lorden with sports and weather.
Oh, thanks guys. Well, that was a quite eventful stories there, Eddie and Pat. Anyone really cares about that? I don't. I'm not watching. Number one for a reason in Richmond. It's me. Hog Sports. Pretty big deal. Big deal. Yeah, voted by the Associated Press, number one of the nation. Pretty long time. Cinco, Janice, 5 years. Thank you. Okay, well. Yeah, so Quidditch team in Richmond. Kind of falling off here. Come on, guys. It's like flying on broomsticks. Been riding mine since I was 5 years old. Let's go. Gotta catch a little golden ball. No big deal. No big deal. No big deal. NBD. And that's... Oh. Breaking. Big deal. Breaking news. Ron Weasley. Week 2 of Baker's Dozen. Broken Nebulous. Not good. Not good. Fantasy Squad. Totally blasted. Janice. Okay, higher note. Sunny couple days, rain couple days. Wear a coat, sunblock, no big deal. Okay, well, Chines, weather, hog, out, bye.
Alright, thank you, Chines, for that hard-hitting reporting, and my heart goes out to the Weasley family. I hope Ron gets better soon. In other news today, we have a local man woke up to find a rat inside of his mouth. He was latched onto the man's tongue, and the man and the rat fought vigorously for hours and hours, and unfortunately the rat won the battle, but he wasn't done there. The rat moved on to the man's family, killing his wife and 2 children. But the real thing is after the rat was done killing, he wrote in the blood of the victims, Fave Dorster on the wall. Now, I don't know who Fave Dorster is, but if I were him, I would watch out, because this rat is on a mission to kill you. So just be on the lookout for a mutant large rat.
What a saddening story. I offer my condolences to that family. But really? Fave Dorster? I would be frightened. In other news today, there has been a fire at a local man's house. Firemen were unable to put it out. And wait, this just in, Fave Dorster's house is not caught on fire. I hope that bloody rat does not follow through with his plans.
Well, for another great day here at WHOG The Hog, thank you for watching.
From all of us here at The Hog, I'm Eddie Moore.
I'm Patrick Carney.
Get some, Richmond.